know, nonstop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
Some really good games and some games that we want back, and that's part of pro football. But it's something that I think we could have done a lot better job of this year, is just being more consistent, sustaining drives, being a better third down team, and that's the most important stat that sticks out. Being better on third down. So again, there's going to be time to look at all those things, but we can be a really good third down team here on Sunday against Chicago and be good on first down, second down, and just have our guys play their best football this week.
All right, if the Vikings are a better third down team against the Bears on Sunday, will that make you guys feel good going into the offseason? Will it wipe away any ill feelings you had?
Let me hand out a.
Judd's looking for the bleeps he gives with the paper.
Let me hand out a grade.
I'm trying to find some bleeps I can't find.
Clint, here's your grade for this year. F. Hold on. No, let me improve it.
Is it a drool stain in the middle of that piece of paper there?
No, it's a stain from my healthy choice that I had to put on this piece of paper, and yes, it caused.
What's wrong with the plate or a paper towel?
Well, I had the healthy choice in the thing. Like they come pre-packaged, and so I put the package thing down on the piece of paper, but I didn't have a towel or a plate below the package. Like
That's
it's not
why
like
you
the
keep all the
food is
paper.
on
Got
the piece of paper. Like it's in a carton. It comes in a carton. But I'm not gonna take a plate out and dirty a plate below a carton. Like that's too much for me.
That's
I do
tough,
the dishes, so I'm not doing more work.
You're just trying to be efficient. You're trying to minimize.
That's what my life's about. Every day is a struggle. It's like a football game, right? Adversity. And I don't want to create more dish adversity than is absolutely necessary.
Do you use plastic utensils?
I would if I could.
Okay.
I love paper plates.
Bad for the environment, but it's good for minimizing the dishes.
Okay, I'm going to say it again, and I know that this is not a popular opinion, but I'm 52, no kids. Environment doesn't worry me. I'll be long gone by the time that catches up to the world.
We'll see. I think TCL TVs are environmentally friendly.
Oh,
I know that they're great for watching football.
Yeah.
And you can find a new lineup of award-winning TVs that deliver the most entertainment with stunning resolution, all at an affordable cost. Enjoy more of the things you love with TCL. So normally here, every week we do Purple Props, where we take you through our game picks and all the intricate details of what the market says, what the sports books are saying about the game. But this game is relatively meaningless. There's no playoff implications. Bears, Vikings. It's just basically an exhibition game on Sunday. So I'm going to give you guys a choose your own adventure show layout here. Okay, we can do one of two things. We can either A, go through and pick the game and go through the spread details and the betting trends and whatnot, or I have a list on ProFootballNetwork.com about the hottest potential 2022 NFL general manager candidates that if the Vikings move on from Rick Spielman, they could tap into this list.
Gee willikers.
I really enjoy Doré. I mean, I always enjoy going through basically pre-season game props, but I guess I'm going to go Door B. Declan, how about you?
Door B, but I will say Judd Zolgad did spend the longest pie chart of blame on a preseason football game, so you do have takes when it comes to meaningless football games.
I do
you had a 14-minute pie chart on a preseason game.
And the reason why was because at that time I was preparing the Vikings for what was supposed to be success. They didn't listen to that pie chart and they failed, which is why they all get F minuses.
I don't know why they don't just call you. All right, let's do this. Let's fire this up here. So this is a list of potential 2022 general manager candidates. The article is from ProFootballNetwork.com. It's who are the top names to know if your team is about to fire its general manager. And Rick Spielman, it's possible that on Sunday night or Monday morning, we don't know. There's a lot of decisions to be made here, but this list is in no particular order. So we'll start with Mike Borgonzi, assistant general manager, Kansas City Chiefs. Is this the year someone steals him away from Kansas City? The Chiefs' lifer's name, so he's been with the Chiefs for a long time, pops up every cycle, kind of like George Payton. For years, he was turning down opportunities, right? But each time he has remained with the Chiefs organization. Kansas City's roster has been chock full of high-level talent for years. The Chiefs have become a bit of a GM factory, and Mike Borgonzi has followed a familiar path. So again, we probably don't know a lot about these people, but like the idea of Mike Borgonzi.
The organization intrigues me, but again, I don't. Without knowing more, I don't. It's very hard to say when we're talking about guys like this what their actual involvement in the success is. Some are very smart, some are along for the ride. The organization, though, I could certainly, in a copycat league where ideas are stolen constantly, it does make some sense at least to talk to a guy from the Chiefs and say, tell us everything that you know, and we might give you a job ultimately, and we might not, but we'll know what you know then. So I talk to him. That's the type of guy I talk to for sure.
Here's the job titles for Borgonzi when he's with the Chiefs since 2009. So he was the College of Scouting Administrator. Then he was the Manager of Football Operations. Then he was a Pro Personal Scout. Then elevated to Assistant Director of Pro Scouting. Then elevated again to Co-Director of Player Personnel. And for the last 3 years, he's been the Director of Player Personnel. So he's risen up the ranks. I like it.
Yeah, I think, obviously you have to figure out to what extent is he driving the personnel success with the Chiefs versus he's part of an organization that, right? And I don't know. The next one on the list is Morocco Brown, Director of College Scouting for the Indianapolis Colts. So he is a familiar name to anyone who follows NFL personnel department news. He got an interview for the Falcons GM opening last year, ultimately did not get the job, but he has more than 2 decades of experience in the NFL, spending time with the Browns, Washington, and Bears before joining the Colts. He had a big say in the Colts selecting major pieces like Quentin Nelson, Darius Leonard, Jonathan Taylor, and Grover Stewart in recent years. I will say, I love the Colts organization and what they've built over the last 7-8 years. They are competitive. They have good defenses. They seem to, and they're trying to find quarterback, right? Carson Wentz, they made that move. Yeah. So their life after Andrew Luck has been, they've been fine, but they're trying to find if they can get that last piece of the puzzle. But I'm interested if you're tapping into smart people from the Colts or the Chiefs. Okay, I'm here for that.
One name that has also serviced from the Colts, and I think he had a couple of interviews in the past couple of years, including I think last year with the Lions, their assistant GM, guy by the name of Ed Dodds, who I read a big story about him. Sounds like he has been around for a while and a very, very smart guy. So yeah, the Colts have done things right. Like they were a weird team, and they definitely had some struggles, but I think that they've done a really good job personnel wise and also building out a coaching staff. So I would be intrigued, and Dodds is a name that's been out there, so that could be a definite candidate as well.
Yeah, he's curious. I think the Colts have done a pretty decent job. Feels right. I mean, they're kind of similar to the Vikings, that they've always been good. They haven't been train wrecks necessarily. I'm not a big Carson Wentz fan, but that doesn't mean I don't applaud them for trying to go out and fix their quarterback position either. But I'd be curious on him.
The next name is a very, very familiar one. This guy is 55 years old, and he was the general manager of the Atlanta Falcons for 12 years. Thomas Dimitroff.
Yes.
So he was fired. The Falcons cleaned everything out, a year and a half ago. And I'll just read you the write-up here. If a team wants someone who knows what it takes to get to the Super Bowl, they could do a lot worse than Thomas Dimitroff, who's been out of football since the Falcons fired him and Dan Quinn 1 month into the 2020 season. Quinn rehabbed his image by transforming the Cowboys' defense into one of the best in football. Does Dimitroff deserve a chance to do the same on the front office side? So they made 6 playoff appearances in 13 years. They were an every other year playoff team. They had a 25-point lead in the Super Bowl in 2016. He identified Matt Ryan. I believe he was the one that, because his first year was 2008. So 90% sure he identified. He did. He drafted Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Grady Jarrett. So, he's a familiar name here. He's done it before. He's brought a team to the Super Bowl. I would say that the 2008 through 2020 Falcons are actually kind of similar to the Vikings in that they were pretty darn good and competitive. They went a step further than the Vikings did by actually going to a Super Bowl. But I would be interested in having a conversation with Thomas Dimitroff. Yes.
I wonder if there might be some bad blood there. He was supposed to interview here for that job, maybe pre-Fran Foley, and didn't show. And I think that's when I think that's around the time, or it might have been post-Fran before Rick.
So he was with the Patriots for 5 years before he got that Falcons job.
And he blew, and I want to say he decided not to, and I don't know if that was the Falcons job at the time that he was taking and in the process of, or not. But I wonder if that wouldn't have sat well with the Vikings, considering that was the Wilf ownership group.
I think he's worth an interview for sure, and the betting process of that. But just the way the Falcons have honestly kind of collapsed with their roster construction the last few years does kind of freak me out. I know he was fired from that 0-5 start last season. I think he's worth an interview, but I wouldn't be jumping up for joy that he should be interviewing for the job either.
The other hard part about pinpointing a GM, it's less about what's your batting average and drafting players and stuff, because the draft's kind of a crapshoot. And yes, there's going to be certain guys who can maybe have a higher batting average, but Bill Belichick whiffs a ton in the draft. And, Rick Spielman found Stephon Diggs, but he also passed on Stephon Diggs for 4 rounds. So it's just, I'm more interested in someone who's a great leader, someone who, like Judd has said, can read people, understands how to identify a quarterback who gets it, who doesn't, and someone who can build organizational culture. A lot of things you can't quantify. You really need to find a leader of people and a leader of an organization. It's less about did he hit on this tackle or not? Some of that is luck and crapshoot.
I'd be very curious about obviously philosophy of construction, because that's important. And I think if your focus is in the wrong places, that's a red flag. But yeah, when it comes to quarterback too, it's can you identify that position and that player, not just as an arm talent, but as a person who can lead? And then can you build out a coaching staff that can take said player and develop him too? Because if you take a good quarterback and put him in the wrong environment, there's a chance it ain't going to work. So the Mac Jones thing, again, I think it's a real indictment that we all say, well, the Vikings passed on Mac Jones, but if the Vikings had taken him, they would have screwed him up. That's a really big indictment, right? Mac Jones was taken by the Patriots. He's playing well. You got to look at that and say, you can't just be well, I'm glad the Vikings didn't take Mac Jones, because it wouldn't have been the same here. So those are the nuanced things that are extremely important.
Yeah. We're about halfway through this list, and there's a couple definitely recognizable names here. But I'll tell you what, it doesn't take a genius scout to identify a good can of beer.
Let's see here. If I had a first-round draft pick, what would it be? Oh, you know what? I always have my first-round pick. It's like a quarterback. It's always sitting nearby. Surly Furious IPA. That's right. I am never far from my first-round pick, because my roster construction, well, it's impeccable, because I have found the right beer, and it is this one, Surly Furious IPA, outstanding. Of course, all Surly Brewing products are great, but if you're going to have one draft pick tonight, make it a Surly Furious.
And if you're going to find one insurance company to partner with to give you a lot more resources and risk management protection as a business owner, it would be Federated. Federated's been around for over 100 years. They've got all kinds of experience protecting business owners, making sure that you maximize the success of your business by protecting against risk. Federatedinsurance.com. And remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours. Ed Dodds, you already mentioned him. He's on this list, the assistant general manager for the Colts. He'll definitely be getting talking head guy on ESPN the last 8 years or so. And I think he's excellent on TV. I think he does a great job explaining things to the viewers. He's opinionated. he seems like a kind of a no nonsense guy too. He seems like a very buttoned up guy.
Agree.
His background is in player personnel. So he was the director of pro personnel for the Philadelphia Eagles. He also worked for Washington. This is like, kind of mid 2000s, early. He was with the Eagles from 2010 to 2013, and the write up says he knows the game, he knows how to communicate, and it's time a team made him the face of a franchise. I believe he interviewed for jobs as well last year, so he definitely wants to be. And this would be kind of like a Mike Mayock situation where he goes from TV to running a franchise.
Yeah.
He's a smart guy. So I don't think it would just be a gimmick hire. Oh, you're hiring a guy from TV. I think you'd be hiring a smart guy to run the organization. I would give him a look.
I'm torn here. So I think if I was going to, and I think that this league should embrace the opportunity to hire minority candidates, I think I would look far longer at GM candidates who are in the league right now. And I know that we don't know names, but the reality is those guys have been practicing their craft. And I would prefer to find that. Riddick intrigues me as this. The job that we think Spielman is going to get, like being kicked upstairs, if I could have Riddick be my president and represent my team and have a voice in football as well, but be a more wide-ranging. But when we're talking about the GM, the X's and O's guy, basically who's just in the muckety-muck of football things, I prefer to get a guy who's currently in the league, actively working right now. But like, if you weren't going to take Rick and make him, I don't know, to take your pick a title, president of, football or president or whatever. I think
that's a perfect title right there. President of football or whatever.
Or whatever you do. Go talk to the Dunkers Club. But anyway, I think that could be a really good job because Riddick would bring things. I'm really more towards rewarding people that are actively practicing their craft in the league right now.
I think Riddick is very intriguing. And if people look at the Mike Mayock situation as like, oh, don't do it, because I think Mike Mayock is like a little psychotic, just to be completely honest. I don't think he's a competent GM.
Wow.
He's a little nuts to me. He went from a player.
Been pretty competitive, though.
They've been better, but they've had like a boatload of draft picks over the last 3 years that have just been waived, cut, not hitting. Like he's a bit of a buffoon in my opinion. He also like went from playing into commercial real estate. I'm getting this off Wikipedia, by the way. I don't know this off the top of my head.
Is it Mayock?
Yeah, Mike Mayock. And then was a broadcaster for like 20 years and then like basically stumbled, in my opinion, into this Raiders job. Like Riddick has experience. Riddick was the director of football ops for the Eagles. He was a former player. He seems like a smart guy. Yeah, I would definitely interview him. And to be honest, I'm probably the most curious on him of all the people you've listed so far.
The next one on the list here is Dan Morgan. Remember him? He was a linebacker in the NFL for a number of years.
Yeah.
He's the assistant general manager for the Panthers.
Yep.
Here's the write-up. What a meteoric rise. Dan Morgan's second act might be better than his first. He's currently got his dream job. He was the all-pro linebacker for the Panthers before injuries cut his playing career short. I think he had concussions or something. Mm-hmm. It would likely take the perfect scenario for him to leave Carolina, but the sense around football is he's worth breaking the bank for. 1 year after his premature retirement, Morgan interned for the Seahawks. They eventually brought him aboard as their assistant director of pro personnel. He was soon running the department and then did the same for the Bills from 2018 through 20. Then Panthers GM Scott Fitterer picked him from the pool of at least 4 candidates to be his assistant GM. So, again, I don't know.
I'd pick his brain.
Familiar name.
Sure.
Yeah, he seems like a smart dude. Worth an interview.
I wonder if this is how, like, the Wilfs go about it, too. They're like, oh, yeah. I remember that guy.
Guys.
That guy used to be a linebacker, right? Let's pull him up on Wikipedia.
I look at all the guys.
Let's call that guy.
Bring me that Panthers guide. Who's this Dan Morgan guy? Let's see what he's up to.
I don't know if I like Louis Riddick, but who's the other guy in the booth? That Brian Greasy.
This media guy.
Well, what's Brian
really
Greasy's
useful.
contract?
Look at this media guide.
All right, Joe Schoen, the assistant GM for the Buffalo Bills. Another name that's been through the rumor mill at least once already. He was up for a couple of top jobs last offseason, but nothing materialized. He has been Brandon Beane's top lieutenant for at least 5 years, and obviously the Buffalo Bills have come on strong in those 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Let me roll through a few of these, and then you guys can give your final comments. Elliot Wolf, the front office consultant right now for the Patriots.
Ron Wolf's kid.
Okay. So he joined the Patriots after 14 years with the Packers and 2 with the Browns, who made him their assistant GM in 2018. While with the Packers, Wolf was the director of 3 different departments at varying times: pro personnel, player personnel, and football operations. And then Dave Ziegler, who is the director of player personnel for the Patriots, so working for Bill Belichick. So that's your list of top rising GM candidates according to ProFootballNetwork.com.
So it feels like they went through largely a group of successful teams and then picked names from there, which leads me to ask the question again. And this is the hard to quantify thing. That you have to do a bunch of background checking is how much did that person actually have to do with the success of that team, and how much did they benefit from that, right? Mm-hmm. I think Doogie mentioned this name as well, and this is a guy who's been in Dallas for a long time. He's their VP of Player Personnel, Will McClay. He had a chance to interview for the Texans job last year, and much like George Payton did, I think he passed on that opportunity. But he is a guy who's been around for a long time. Declan will like this. Has obviously a relationship with Kellen Moore. I don't know that he would take the job, but he's a guy who probably deserves a chance too. I struggle because we don't know. I struggle with guys who are just tied to teams. I like the opportunity to pick their brains, but again, if you were just starstruck by, oh, you worked with Belichick, what's that like? Oh man, this is going to be, and we've seen that before.
Yeah,
that can be a really slippery slope.
I think the biggest question is Thomas Dimitroff is out there. He's been to a Super Bowl. The Falcons were a winning team over the course of 12 years. And so he's built a competent organization. Did he build it much beyond what the Vikings were between 2018-20? Not really. Like, they were pretty similar franchises. So, like, to me, you could hire Thomas Dimitroff, assuming he wants to get back in the game.
Sure.
Is there somebody better with more upside but a lot less experience that you would take a gamble on and put him in that spot? And I think what I worry is that the Vikings would go with the sort of, well, we just want to guard against a train wreck.
Right.
So let's bring in I would interview Thomas Dimitroff, but I would swing for the fences, man. Like, if you feel like there's somebody on this list that they don't have that much experience, but they're a dynamic leader, they've got a great scouting eye, and they're willing to, go out and get a quarterback of the future. Like, I would swing for the upside here, I guess, is what I'm
100%.
saying.
Absolutely. And I also think I would not hire a minority candidate just to do it, but I also think that this league has been so adverse to that there has to be like some hidden gems, right? Like, there have to be. There's some, so like this whole thing of I'm going to get this recycled white guy. And like, we've seen that in sports constantly, right? If you're a smart, savvy owner, I got to think that there's an unexplored territory of some really good up and coming, probably fairly young people who would be great, who are sitting there, who can't get jobs because of, unfortunately, so far, I think it's fair to say this, the color of their skin, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, I mean, that's where I would be swinging for the fences in saying, okay, the rest of the league has passed on these guys. I don't know if it's because of biases or what, but let's start there.
We know what we need to do with Louis Riddick. Someone needs to go back, because I think he's on like the 8-hour, draft coverage panel. I need to know, like, were there any really outlandish bad takes? Did he think that like Mitch Trubisky was going to be a Hall of Famer or something? I need to know. All right, what were your quarterback takes on draft day, man? How bad? How good or bad?
The TV thing sort of scares me off sometimes too, because like we are like, oh, I've heard of that guy because he's on TV, right? Yeah. And so I would far prefer to get a guy who's grinding for a team, and I'm like, who? And then it's like, oh, okay.
And in fairness, I feel like Riddick seems, in his preparation for his job, he seems to do a lot of the same legwork, film study, talking to people
Absolutely.
around the league that you would do if you were in that role. So,
Yeah.
you know, I don't think it's that he's just like been out of the game and rusty.
Oh,
I think he
no.
kind of takes that craft and molds it into his media job.
And if you talk to him and he's brilliant, that's awesome. But I think that I think there's unexplored territory here that you could tap into and get a home run hire because it hasn't been tapped into previously. So
Rick's nervous laughter. Yeah, you're the vice president of just, football things and whatever, and stuff.
I'm really afraid that Rick is going to get kicked upstairs and have a big say in his replacement. Like, I don't know that at all, but that really concerns me.
Would they though? Like, would they have him in the room for interviews? Like,
I don't know, man.
I
but
like
I mean,
he would. You say kicked upstairs, but he would. To me, he would be working for whoever they brought in to run the football department.
I hope you're right. I just don't.
He wouldn't
know
have
that.
like juries. Like,
but what if he did? What if he thought he did? I mean, that franchise can be weird sometimes.
The Kellen Moore interview on the coaching front is happening with the Jaguars today, by the way. So the Jaguars are already way out in front. The Jaguars
Zoom is probably like, Kellen, are you there? Can you hear us?
And the Byron Leftwich interview is also today. So today the Jaguars they've already talked to Doug Peterson. They're going to talk to Kellen Moore and Byron Leftwich today and Bill O'Brien next week.
You know what? If you're talking to Bill O'Brien, I'm confident you're going to screw things up again. What are you doing? Why is he on your list?
He's above 500. Man. He's above 500.
He's up.
Could do worse.
Dex's word of the day is perfect to describe
buffoon.
Brian.
Okay,
yes,
if he didn't have kind of a butt chin, would you still call him a buffoon? Or does he look like a buffoon because he has a butt chin?
He's a college. He's a college guy too. Like I know he coached in the pros, but he looks like and acts like a college guy. He's got the college act down. He does.
Didn't he coach Penn State for a couple years too?
And then he left. Yes.
Okay.
He's a college guy. He's perfect there. He should be Nick's OC for the rest of his coaching career.
He could probably do pretty well as like the Rutgers coach or something too. Like if
Greg Schiano, same guy. Bill O'Brien,
just
Doug
be like
Marrone,
an 8-win.
Schiano.
Go get him.
It's the same guy. Those three will never be seen in a room together because they're the same human.
That's hilarious.
I don't call him a coach. Call me coach.
All right, that's a wrap. That's Purple Props right there. We just kind of threw that episode out the window. And
I got one more thing.
Over GM candidates.
I got one more thing real quick, boys. The Wilfs, I am told, are staying in town, often fly out after games on Sunday, staying in town into Monday, but also I am told that they have done this before to attend the end of the season meeting. So are they staying in town to do that, or are they staying in town? Thank you. I'm just telling you right now, I'm throwing it out there.
Do you think they would attend? So the season-ending meeting, is that usually driven by Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer?
I think it's driven by the
team
coach ordinarily. Yeah.
So is it possible that they would let those guys kind of set up the meeting as they normally would, and then all of a sudden, like the Wilf music hits and they come walking?
Where's Mark? Who walks in first, Mark or Ziggy?
I could see Ziggy doing the Vince McMahon power walk down the ramp.
I'm with you on that.
It's a goofy little mustache. All right. Well, tomorrow, as you're listening to this or watching this, tomorrow Vikings Vent Line will be all about looking ahead. What do you guys want to see happen with this organization? You know, I don't know, if something big happens in the exhibition game between the Vikings and Bears, we'll mention it, but it's going to be a forward-looking episode of Vikings Vent Line. So check it out. This is Purple Daily, Daily Vikings Entertainment. See ya.